Welcome to Lightning Talks for Legal Innovators. Thank you all for being here. My name is Brittany Hernandez, and I'm your host for this Lightning Talk series in partnership with Gavel. I'm a lawyer, a Gavel expert, and professional no-code, low-code developer, a legal tech educator, and the global ambassador to law schools for Gavel. Today, Francesca Little, lawyer and one of Gavel's law students in Legal Tech Access to Justice Fellows, will discuss the topic, Automating Immigration Law for Good, one lawyer's mission to use tech to protect refugees. Feel free to post your questions in the chat as you think of them, and Francesca will pick them up once she concludes. After questions, I'll share some quick announcements and do a wrap up, after which you're free to stay on the call for an optional 5 minutes of speed networking, where I'll invite a few people to introduce themselves for about 1 minute each. You can let me or Trisha know in the chat if you'd like to introduce yourself during that portion of the call. I'd now like to introduce today's speaker. Francesca is a lawyer with Lutheran Services Florida, a nonprofit that works to strengthen families, welcome refugees and immigrants, care for the elderly, counsel teens and families in crisis, and run safe place shelters and resource centers, as well as many other amazing services. She also completed Gavel's Law Students in Legal Tech Access to Justice Fellowship, which has a 12-week certification course and hackathon competition where she tied for first place in the most creative marketing campaign category and received an honorable mention for getting first place votes in both the most sophisticated build and most fit for purpose categories. She holds a JD from Stetson University College of Law, where she completed a concentration in social justice advocacy and was the president of both the Hispanic Bar Association and the Immigration Law Student Association. She also participated in an Access to Justice summer fellowship program where she was assigned to work with Bay Area Legal Services and later became their first ever legal tech intern and assisted with their technological innovation grant and foster power project. Thank you so much for being with us today, Francesca. The floor is now yours.
Hey, thank you so much, Brittany. So I kind of thought a bit about how I wanted to approach this like tech talk, as I'm calling it. And so I think really the way for me to try to like tie it all together is just, there's like different puzzle pieces that go together. And so I have to provide a little bit more of my own personal background to sort of see how like the pieces started coming to place throughout law school and my transition to like becoming a new baby attorney. So my personal family background is that I myself am an immigrant, and so is my family. My family immigrated to the United States when I was around 5 years old. And for that reason, the majority of my life has been in the United States, which allowed me, to be afforded the education of the system here. But just from my personal roots, I am an immigrant, I'm Latina, and my family, I grew up low income. And so part of what really drives me to help nonprofits and communities and such is just because, my own family at one point benefited from a nonprofit similar to the one I'm working at now that had, Head Start. My brother and I grew up going to Head Start programs when I was younger and everything. And so this first gen mindset, I don't know if any other immigrants or immigrant children are on the call, but you kind of have this, pressure or to just trying to make the come up struggle worth it here in the United States after your family, basically like left everything and came here and started over. So there's always like, the ongoing joke is like, you have to be a doctor, lawyer, engineer. And so I've always been drawn more to languages, reading books and things. So that's why my route became law school. And another huge part of that is because my greatest motivation became trying to help others, especially those like myself and my family who came here in search of, a better, brighter future here in the United States. And so for that reason, I, chose to go to law school. That became my main motivation and passion. And thanks to scholarship opportunities that I was lucky enough to be afforded to me, I was able to, attend undergrad, attend law school, and help to make this difference. So I also saw it as a way to sort of strive to pay it forward in the future. And I feel like that's very indicative of like, and reflected by, my chosen career path and current position in a nonprofit. And so during my time at law school, I tried to, remain open-minded, open-hearted to different classes, because especially in the first year, it's just a general course list. You kind of see a little bit of all the different legal practice areas that you're going to see on the bar exam. But it was really through my elective coursework and participation in community pro bono opportunities and stuff that I just, my heart, my personal passion always gravitated towards the more nonprofit side. And so at Stetson Law, I participated in the immigration pro bono clinic that they have. I ended up designating a social justice advocacy concentration. And I participated in their pro bono showcase and was even afforded a public service scholarship for the work that I did there on campus. And in my role as president of the Hispanic Bar Association and Immigration Law Student Association for the community events and initiatives and stuff that I organized both on and off campus. But my first exposure to like nonprofit workplace was when I volunteered with Bay Area Legal Services Family Law Pro Bono Clinic, and when I became their Access to Justice Summer Fellow there. And that was the summer of I believe it was my 1L summer 2021. It was, like this weird limbo time. I would say most people, it was when it was not quite all in person yet, but not quite fully hybrid yet either. Everybody, was trying to figure out how to cope with the changes in the, coronavirus times. So it was sort of like within this bubble that I was, attending law school and also, taking steps to enter different workplace areas and everything. So at Bay Area Legal Services is where I would learn about website development, search engine optimization, like creating area landing pages that I believe are still up on Bay Area's website. And also, how to increase search results on Google, process enhancement, and some basic coding. This was really the first time that I learned anything about coding or had exposure to like the legal tech industry and different legal tech tools available in the market. And so for that, because I didn't really come from a coding background, a computer science background or anything, I really thank the interview committee from Bay Area who decided to take a chance on me. And, my ability to quickly pick up new skills, because I really appreciate the fact that everything that I learned from there is applicable not only in like whatever workplace, but is very adaptable to later, running your own firm or anything. And so having that knowledge and that background, I think still helps me to this day and is like a competitive edge, especially in the legal industry now, where, we're more focused on embracing legal tech tools and software programs and everything to try to process enhance our day-to-day lives, tasks, and everything. Try to create a little bit more work-life balance for the attorney, right? Which I'm learning. That's why everybody's complains about work-life balance. But at Bay Area Legal Services, during that Access to Justice Tech Fellowship, is when I basically got exposed to Gavel as a software platform. And honestly, it was so easy to use, and the resources for skill development, learning how to code, how to create the workflows, how to tag documents and PDFs and everything is super helpful. And also shout out to their customer service representatives, some of which are on this call, because I know they've received emails from me throughout my time there. But they're always so nice, friendly, and they're ready to help you whenever you need it. So, don't be afraid to reach out or anything. And it was having such a great experience with Gavel and their customer service and everything that I honestly think pushed me to, not be afraid to ask questions and to remain interested in learning more and developing more on the Gavel platform, as well as, document automation in general. And as a result of the Access to Justice Fellowship that I did and my exposure to Gavel, my supervisor later decided to bring me on as Bay Area Legal Services' first legal tech intern. and work on their technology initiative grant. It's a TIG project through LSC and Legal Services Corporation. And so basically the project that we worked on was the core focus was utilizing Gabble as a software platform in order to process enhance internal forms for the different legal departments. So what I would do is I would, talk to the different teams, sort of see what they do and try to identify different internal documents or client-facing documents that we could help expedite the process a little bit more so that for the same amount of time, we could help service more clients. Right. And so that is what I helped out with for my 2L to 3L year, basically, when I was an independent contractor there. And then right at the end, I was also tasked with helping the Foster Power initiative project that they had, where they developed an application for foster youth or, foster persons in general to have this access to all this different information, tools, and, that it's honestly a great initiative. And I'm so happy that they did that because I can't believe it didn't exist before, right? But this is how we use the legal technology to help create, further tools, knowledge, access to this knowledge, resources, and everything that people need, and, make it in a handheld device, right? Or laptop, computer, iPad, whatever, cell phone. And so my part of that project was more like a small piece. I just helped create they had a workflow that they wanted to do relating to fee waivers and money requests for, a child doesn't know what they have to do in order to ask for, like, oh, I want a bicycle for Christmas, right? We're around Christmas right now, so I'll use that example. Like, I would like to buy a bicycle, or like, oh, I need to go to the dentist. So there's like steps that they have to do in the foster system to go about requesting that money to be able to use. So for example, if they're under 18 and they don't have access to their financial accounts yet, or the money that, so that's what the piece that I participated in. But I got to participate in the launch with the team, and it was great. And so basically working at Bay Area Legal Services with the support of my supervisor and also my TIG teammates, they pushed me and encouraged me to participate in the LSILT Access to Justice certification course, where Brittany Hernandez was actually the instructor. She's the moderator for today's discussion too, but she was amazing. And so she taught us all about the different document automation processes, steps that you can use in Gabble, as well as other legal tech tools that you can incorporate and that integrate really well, not just with Gabble, but with, a system or business model in general. And I really appreciated that. And so the course was 12 to 14 weeks during my last semester of law school. So it happened to be that, all the puzzle pieces started coming into place and the timing was great. And you know how people always say everything happens for a reason. So that's sort of what pushed me to take the certification course and participate in the Gabble hackathon. Luckily, I'm sort of like a planner, so I was able to, have a little bit of a lighter course load my last semester to be able to participate because, there were assignments for those 12 to 14 weeks. And then you had 1 or 2 weeks to develop a minimal viable product for the Gabble hackathon submission. And so for that, my main focus was on how I could utilize both my personal background and my passion for helping others, as well as I completed a social justice advocacy concentration. So my goal was seeing like how I could help further, like the Foster Power initiative project is helping foster persons access to resources and helping them in that area. I was trying to figure out what could I do to help benefit my Hispanic, Latinx, and immigrant communities. And, if there's something in the area, in the space that could, be very marketable, I guess, but also helpful to those types of clients. And so what I developed for the Gabble hackathon was an automated immigration form. I ended up deciding on the I-821 TPS form. But I remember at the time when I was, going about doing the research and everything and looking up all these different forms, there's just so many forms in immigration law, right? So I was just like, which one should I pick? Like, how should I do it? But again, we had time constraints of like 1 to 2 weeks to try to do this. So some of the immigration forms are, a lot of pages, and were, unrealistic expectations. Brittany even said the one I ended up picking was a little bit unrealistic, but I try my best. So I ended up picking that one because I also thought it could help the most amount of people, in that TPS stays for a certain amount of time, but you can help others in multiple countries. I think there's like 14 countries typically designated, and right now there's about 14 countries that are designated. And so my focus became automating that. But through this project that kind of linked all the puzzle pieces together, I was able to see that immigration law is just very ripe for document automation work in terms of process enhancement. And so because of this, I, submitted my submission had to do with both the MVP, the minimal viable product that I submitted, as well as I think I took it a step further and I went and I created a whole, technological, like a harmonized technological business plan, marketing strategy campaign ideas and things like that, which, I guess the judges appreciated. So I ended up being the finalist in that category. And I do have the support of Dorna and everything, that when I'm ready, I can, hopefully take my ideas to market and be included in Gavel's app marketplace. Because unfortunately, I submitted the hackathon submission and everything, and then I had graduation literally like a week or two after that. But because of that, I basically went right into bar prep mode after that. And so, when you have to like rush to complete something, there's always some, little quirks and finishing touches you would like to, put on before anything goes to market. So that's sort of the point of where I'm at right now. And basically, in summation, this sort of brings you all up to speed on where I'm currently in my journey, from legal tech law student to now legal tech inspired baby attorney. And so I am, learning my job roles right now. And in the company that I currently work for, I am a staff attorney for Lutheran Services Florida, which has a dedicated immigration law and refugee services team. So if you're keeping track where all the puzzle pieces are kind of coming into play, I work at a nonprofit that is focused on immigration law. And I'm taking the insights that I learned both from my tech innovation grant project work under Bay Area Legal Services, which was another Tampa Bay based nonprofit. I'm taking it now and I get to more directly apply it to the practice area that I, did a submission for Gavel Hackathon with. And I'm trying to work on developing my ideas into, document automation projects that can both help automate but process enhance. And because immigration law is so forms heavy and very volume based work, it is very ripe for document automation work in general. And so for right now, what I'm trying to focus on is figuring out the pieces, the areas, which forms, and how to help the clients, but also help, because we have such a numerous amount of clientele, but we have, short staff, or limited staff, I should say. So it's like, even if you want to help everyone, you can't. But how can we do, help more people with the time that we have? So that's sort of what I'm working on developing ideas for right now. And I'm excited because my supervisor seems very interested in it, and I actually get to, develop a business proposal for this new year. So that's what I'll be working on. and developing some more forms related to the specific legal services that we do here at LSF, because nonprofits, a lot of them are limited in what they can do because, grant funding restrictions and everything. But a lot of nonprofits cannot even provide legal services related to immigration law. So it's this very like niche area where if you have a nonprofit that is actually able to do immigration services, they're usually still very restricted on which type of immigration services they can provide. For example, Bay Area Legal Services, they have the VOCA grant only allows them to do very small amount of immigration law work related to violence against, victims of violence, children, domestic abuse, stalking, human trafficking, etc. But that's like, very small subsection of immigration law. And at least here at LSF, I'm able to do more of a family humanitarian based work. So for that reason, I don't know if my old Bay Area boss is on this call. He said he was going to try to stop by. He definitely tried to keep me. But that's why I ended up where I am today. And that's the area of law that I think within immigration law too is oftentimes forgotten just because there's such a shortage of attorneys in immigration law in general. And where the money is in the business and investor visas and things like that. So family humanitarian law also is very heavily mass, I don't want to say mass production, but like, you have to have massive clients to be able to, charge. And so it's not really a billable hour model type mark. It's more of like a flat rate model because you have to have like a more clients to make up the amount that you would charge on something else, right? And so for that reason, I think also this particular subsection of immigration law is very ripe for document automation work where you can utilize the same amount of time but help multiple clients and charge them on a flat rate fee, I guess. And well, if anybody has any questions, that is gonna take me closer to my time, I think, right?
Yes, perfect. Perfect timing. Thank you so much, Francesca. It's so amazing to hear your path and your journey. If anyone has any questions, feel free to unmute and ask. I'll just kind of kick us off a little bit. One of the main reasons why I asked Francesca to speak with us today is not only because she's amazing and obviously doing so many incredible pieces of work for underserved populations, but also because she is really representative of what's happening in law schools right now and how the legal education of our future lawyers is kind of going right now in the direction it's going. So in my particular case, my role with Gavel is Global Ambassador to Law School. So I go into different law schools around the world and give lectures about legal technology, about Gavel, give practical workshops and examples. So for those of us who are on the call that are, current attorneys who are a couple years out, and I even graduated in 2020, and so I'm not that far out, we're seeing this really big shift in the way that education for law students is kind of going, and that is in the direction of legal technology. So I think that her story and journey is really representative of the kinds of, obviously like hers is a little bit unique in that she had these particular experiences where she was able to be the first legal tech associate at this, or legal tech intern at this particular organization. But what we're seeing is this kind of direction of people having these opportunities to gain practical legal tech education, specifically with Gavel and other tools, very early. So what I wanted to show is how that looks for the current entrance to the legal job market. And I think that this is a really good representative example of that, but also to have the opportunity to ask what is expected of these, not necessarily, younger, you could say, these attorneys that are coming into our firms and having all of this wealth of knowledge on things that we didn't learn when we were in school. So we're having to do a little bit of catch up of what they just learned. So I'm really excited to kind of hear this path and this journey that you've gone through, Francesca, and I really appreciate you sharing that with everyone on the call. So I would just be curious about entering, now that you've kind of had all this experience, you've gotten really excited about legal tech, you have all of these skills that you're ready and willing to use, do you feel, like you said, that little bit of, push to try to help the place that you're working now, or in future, other firms that are more traditional and maybe don't have Gavel yet, or other tools that are automation related, do you feel like there's a little bit of pressure on you to help, or do you feel like there's any pushback in that sense of trying to automate a firm or a or organization when you have all these skills?
Well, I would say that at least, up to this point, I've always seen the, process enhancement aspect and document automation work as a marketable skill, right? It's very adaptable to any workplace. And so where I'm at right now, I find myself, it is more of like a traditional self firm and everything. And so for me, I'm more like, I'm just a baby attorney here and everything. I'm more like quietly observing, trying to see what I see that could where document automation pieces could maybe perhaps help enhance that process or the procedures and steps there. And so it's these insights that I'm gonna be seeing and everything that I'm gonna be writing about in my proposal and stuff. And hopefully, they take a chance on me and decide to implement maybe, start small because, little changes add up, right? And once I believe even in Bay Area legal services, it's more like trying to get everybody's afraid of change usually, right? So you have to start little by little, right, and get people excited and on board for it, and promoting work-life balance a little bit more and how it will help, because if you start with little pieces, then people will start understanding how it works or how it benefits them, how it can help. And from there, you start little by little, and pretty soon it'll all add up, and maybe not fully automated, but you have like the pieces that are starting to come into place about how you can help take it there. And what you mentioned also reminded me that in law schools now, or at least during in my time, like a couple years ago, there was like just now starting to be sort of like more of a push for how legal technology can be used in the workplace and in practice of law. I actually, my last semester, I took a course that was legal technology in law practice, and that centered more around how and like what tools are very important when it comes to, for example, like setting up your firm within like small, medium, large size firm. And what you choose to do now matters, not only in terms of, personal security, safety online, anti-phishing, scam, etc., but also in terms of like, the case management system that you use is vital. If you have added document automation pieces and certain other, legal tech tools, and how everything needs to be more cohesive, right? You have to have more of like a harmonized technology plan when it comes to the firm that you work at, or if you're developing your own firm. That's something that really needs to, be further emphasized. We'll see if the ABA creates some guidelines on that. But for right now, it is good to see that those classes are starting to pop up, and especially like around the end of my time there, it was, GPT on social media, or chat GPT and everything was going crazy, and how that had like viral sensation has made it more into the minds of like those at home, of current lawyers and everything, and how you can utilize technology tools, not just chat GPT, but how you can utilize legal tech tools and everything to, enhance the practice of law, and enhance your own, firm, workplace. Yeah.
That's super helpful. Thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and wrap us up. Thank you so much for your time, Francesca. I'm just going to pull up my screen here. So thanks again for being here and for sharing your story. Before we wrap up today's lightning talk, we wanted to just let everyone know about a few announcements. So from Francesca's side, feel free to connect with her to ask any additional questions. You can find her on LinkedIn at that following link. Also, Francesca does freelance automation work, so feel free to get in touch because she's not busy enough. From my side, we will be kicking off Basics Week for the Core 8 Core 8 cohort of the completely revised Gavel certification courses that I developed in partnership with Gavel expert Megan Sawtell. So that's going to start on Thursday, January 18th at 10 a.m. Pacific time. So feel free to join us and learn more at commandacademy.com. And then from Gavel side, if you haven't seen already, there's a brand new DocuSign integration, which is now available on the Pro plan. So you can try it out or upgrade today to get access. This is really exciting. So data persistence in bundles is now available at all user levels. So if you're an admin, builder, org user, or user, you'll be able to benefit from the data pushing from one workflow into another in bundles. Also, the section labels in your workflows are now clickable, and you're able to use them to navigate through the workflow, to go back and forward, etc., and edit previous answers. And the review label is going to be able to translate automatically if you update the language of the workflow itself. So by way of a quick reminder, you have the wish list. We have a really great support team, as Francesca mentioned, and then a very active Slack community where we just really try to support each other and answer each other's questions as soon as possible. We have been hosting these lightning talks on the last Thursday of each month for the past year and a half, but we've decided to pause the series for now to focus on offering fewer but more directed sessions in the new year. So we'll send out emails when we schedule future sessions. So that concludes the main portion of our lightning talk for today. A big thank you to Francesca for sharing your insights with us. We'll now be transitioning to an optional 5 minutes of speed networking. So feel free to go if you need to, but if you'd like to stay, we'll stop the recording now and just move on to that speed networking portion.